All right, remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in China on a 3-day visit, and any moment now, the two leaders, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping, will hold summit talks. About 5 hours, we believe, have been set aside for restricted and informal talks. Remember that Prime Minister Modi arrived this morning at President Xi Jinping's hometown, Xi'an, from where his visit began after a visit to a terracotta warrior museum. He then visited the Dajing temple. These are summit talks likely to begin any moment now. But just to give you a sense of the grand welcome that Prime Minister Modi has had since he touched down in China. So the pictures that you see on your screens right now are of Prime Minister Modi and the President there. Those talks are set to begin any moment now. Well, that's their first formal handshake taking place there. President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Right before those talks are set to begin, these are restricted talks that will be taking place. And ever since Narendra Modi has been in China, everyone's been talking about what a grand welcome the leader has been accorded. The highest level reception by President Xi Jinping as the two leaders really look to deepen their personal ties. And there's been a lot of talk about how rare it is for Chinese leaders to accompany foreign guests outside Beijing, and how this visit and the fact that Prime Minister Modi did not first arrive in Beijing was really a break from protocol, arriving first in the president's hometown. That's something that has really been talked about very, very significantly. We do have Nidhi Razdan on the phone line with us. Nidhi is in Beijing. Nidhi, we just saw those very first formal pictures of the handshake between the two leaders, and those talks set to begin any moment now.
Well, this is possibly the most significant meeting that the Prime Minister will have on this trip. The President is the ultimate authority here in China, and the two leaders are going to spend a significant amount of time together this afternoon. Apart from these restricted level talks, which will go on for an hour or so, they will also then visit the the famous Wild Goose Pagoda in Xi'an together, and then there will be a banquet that President Xi will host for Mr. Modi. So it is quite an unprecedented level of interaction. The very fact that President Xi chose to welcome Mr. Modi in his hometown Xi'an is also being seen as a significant gesture here in Beijing, because the Chinese government has not done this before. It's a big break from protocol and seen as a reciprocal gesture by the Chinese president for Mr. Modi's invitation to him to visit Gujarat last year. On the table, a number of contentious issues and also ways that the two leaders hope they can build on the commonalities between the two countries. We are told by government sources that the trade imbalance is going to be very high, in fact topmost on the Prime Minister's agendas. The trade deficit now stands at some $48 billion, and that actually is a jump from earlier by more than 30%. So that has been a big concern. The trade imbalance, the trade deficit is heavily skewed in China's favor. And that is something that Mr. Modi is expected to raise in this meeting. Also, the boundary issue, we're not expecting any major breakthroughs on that, but the Prime Minister expected to reiterate India's concerns on staple visas that continue to be issued by China for residents of Arunachal Pradesh. The other big contentious issue is that of Chinese investments in POK. About $46 billion was announced just last month for an economic corridor. That will be raised by the Prime Minister as well. We're also told that the PM will possibly also bring up India's concerns about China's maritime Silk Road project. It's something that it's a very ambitious project they have by sea and by road as well to connect China to Europe. And they're looking at various economic corridors to do that. But the maritime corridor in particular is one that has concerned India, even though China is keen to have India on board. There is, so these are some of the sort of irritants that they will be talking about. But in terms of commonalities, we are told that about deals worth up to $10 billion are expected to be signed in this visit. Some 20 business deals. E-visas for Chinese nationals are likely to be announced, with the Prime Minister overruling the concerns of intelligence agencies who've actually always been red flagging visas, to Chinese citizens and businesses. That is something that is likely to be announced as well, and about 20 business deals and all. So in the course of today and tomorrow the Prime Minister comes to Beijing. He will be having his formal talks with the Premier Li Keqiang, and the delegations will meet where all the announcements will be made. So in the course of today and tomorrow, all of these issues are on the table before the Prime Minister then heads to Shanghai, where he meets CEOs of both countries and tries to push forward the economic aspect of this relationship.